Oh, hello, Stephen. Are you on mute? I
Oh,
don't
can you
think.
hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you. I didn't know if that was just or not.
I think I'm going to have to redo that intro. While we're here, I just want to restate: Stepping Up is the show where we are speaking with organisations like yourselves to find out what goes underneath the surface, find out where you've come from, what you do, how you do it, and why you do it. More importantly, and of course, we want to give insights to organizations that people just otherwise wouldn't get. They wouldn't understand what you're about and have that kind of perspective. When we look at technology companies, we either speak with companies who are using the technology, we look at your website, we find out what goes on there. But in truth, there's often a bit of a veil of, oh, I'm not entirely sure when you look at these things. So really what we want to do today is to lift that veil up and have a peek behind the curtains and find out what Writesea is all about. So going back to where we are, this is Series 3, Episode 1 of Stepping Up. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And Brandon, thank you for joining us. It's great to see you.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Super excited to kind of share my wisdom, my knowledge, and talk a little bit about the amazing things that we're doing here at Writesea. I feel like we are moving super fast in today's day and age, and it's just a really, really, really good time to talk about jobs, careers, employment opportunities, workforce development, and the future of work, which I think is a really hot topic now. And I think I saw you about like two or 3 months ago, so hasn't been
Yeah.
too long and looking good.
Yeah, thank you very much. So that people can have a more of an understanding of what Writesea is and does, can you give us a bit of a background to yourself and how Writesea came about in the first place?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Brandon Mitchell, co-founder and CEO of Writesea.com. Writesea is a platform that helps online recruitment marketplaces, or as known as job boards, unlock revenue and enhance their candidate experience. Our mission is to empower, job seekers all across the globe to find meaningful work, and for employers to find the best quality talent. And the way that we do that is by providing really superior career services to the millions of job seekers that come through these online recruitment marketplaces. What we found is that a majority of recruitment marketplaces, job boards, hiring platforms, associations, talent communities, what you have, really focus on the employer, right? Because that, if you think about back to 30 years ago, that's kind of where the market started. That's been the core focus of most of recruitment marketplaces, is really optimizing for that experience and just focusing on the algorithmic matching of candidates to job IDs, which is amazing. But we come in and say, hey, you are aggregating millions of candidates. What are you doing for the candidates? What are the services that you provide? What are the things that they actually need? And so what I like to say is that we're the voice of the job seeker globally.
Yeah.
And the recruitment marketplaces that we empower are not just in the United States. That's kind of where we started. And I'll talk a little bit about our origin story. But at this point in our juncture, which is a really short 2.5 years, we are empowering job seekers globally, everything from United States to UK, across EU, as well as into Africa recently, which has been really exciting to think about the impact that we can make abroad. And it's just a really, really amazing time. And so we essentially integrate from a white label or a non-white label perspective, depending on what are the needs of the job board and what are the needs of their job seekers, and come on as essentially a value added partner to essentially better serve what they're already doing. And so we didn't start there, which is really interesting. We actually started as a SaaS platform that was focused on helping service-based businesses, or essentially freelancers, better manage business. And so it was a core function. It was a core functionality around like, hey, there's like I believe over 1 billion freelancers globally. How do you empower those folks to be able to better manage their business through having a portal, having better and more simplified communications, having workflow management? And we realized that we built this amazing technology that we were selling to hundreds of freelancers, but then also said, well, hey, what other use cases for this technology exist today? And I have a background as a career coach. We were top LinkedIn career coach, top Fiverr, Thumbtack career coaches before, and just have the background around helping job seekers. I've done thousands of consultations with candidates. And so we just wrapped up our experience and said, hey, this is a market that we really think we can make impact on.
Yeah. I always say that if you make most of your decisions, not all, but most of your decisions predicated on what's good for job seekers, you can't go too far wrong. So most job boards provide a fantastic service to clients and job seekers by way of advertising. some do a good job on giving, advice and information on the industry that they're in, or how to handle interviews and so on. But very few provide additional career services that are that are practical and useful today for them. That really dig into that, because it's not the core business, it's not what they're about, but there's a real requirement on behalf of candidates who are maybe coming onto the market once a year, once every couple of years, and the resume or the CV that they have is outdated. The format of it is outdated. The way that they talk about themselves and so on is not fresh, and they're looking for help, or they need help maybe that they don't realize they should be. So how are you able to help those candidates in that situation?
Yeah, and it's a really interesting thing because I look at the time that we're in, post pandemic.
Yeah.
The world of has changed. The things that job seekers are looking for versus even 5 or 10 years ago has changed.
Mhm.
The types of services that can be offered has changed. The ability to offer that has changed, and I think that right now we're in a very candidate first market in
Mhm.
terms of seekers being able to kind of demand what they want, or they'll go ahead and hop and or they'll ship and they'll skip,
Yeah.
around and kind of get what they want where they want it. And so I think there's a responsibility around the recruitment marketplace leaders to be able to meet job seekers where they're at, is what I like to say, right? And
Yeah.
provide the services that they're actually looking for, and then make the small tweaks to their platform to enable that. And I think if even if you looked at it from a reverse perspective, like, well, what would go wrong if we don't provide the right services to the job seekers? You
Yeah.
lose brand loyalty and trust, which I think is really really hard to build in this ecosystem. And so by enabling career services and by enabling the services that even we provide, you start to build that brand loyalty and trust. What are you providing to the job seekers outside of just the jobs, which is just
Yeah.
your core function? Like, you're supposed to do that really really well. That's
Yeah.
why you're in business, right? So it's like a no brainer. But the other things I think are really important and sometimes get missed because people are very focused on just their core, but it's like all the ancillary things. And so for us, we look at that and say, well, how can we kind of be this value add assistance? And to be honest, that comes in very different formats. That's whether it's resume enhancement, which we call resume or CV writing, which is
Yeah.
important because 40% of professionally written resumes tend to perform better on the market, which means that your core customer, which is the employers predominantly who are paying for access to these resumes, they see better candidates, right? And so if you're not providing the service, potentially you have a pool of bad resumes, bad CVs. That
Mhm.
on the flip side, they're going to be able to see those, right? And so that
Yeah.
means that there might be amazing candidates hitting in that pool, but they're not coming to the forefront. The
Yeah.
ATS systems are not parsing them, and so it's really like an ecosystem, right? Like having good CVs and providing the services not only help the candidates, which they're happy about, but it also helps the actual employers. And
Yeah.
we also offer something that we do is just even something as basic as a resume review, right? Value add service that helps them understand where they're going wrong.
Mhm.
And we find that 95% of the job seekers that are typically going through registration paths or land on a site willy nilly looking for a job at 2 in the morning, they see a resume review, they're like, yes, I'd love that, I want that, and there's more things that we can offer. But
Mm.
we found a lot of success in just helping with just small things. You can make small tweaks, making sure that there's more pay transparency, making sure that
Mhm.
maybe you're doing webinars every once in a while. And
Yeah.
in this world, it's very niche space because you have job seekers across different levels of seniority,
Yeah.
different industries. And so tackling all that is really, really interesting. But just making small
Yeah.
enhancements, I think, goes a
Go
long way.
Going back to the core, resume or CV, the way that candidates, or job seekers describe themselves is more important than people imagine, because maybe especially because your CV is being read by AI tools these days. And as a recruiter, I would always be on the look for rough diamonds, candidates that other people weren't finding because they had a terrible CV, but they were still a great candidate. Some people are just terrible at producing a document that describes them well and sells them well. They might be amazing design engineers or architects or doctors or whatever, but they pretty much suck when it comes to describing themselves and selling themselves. Not only that, but because that document is going to be read and categorized by job boards and systems, that people are going to use those categorizations to try and find the candidates. If you have a poor CV, then what you're putting into the database in the first place is not accurately describing you, and there's a very good chance that you're not going to be found. I know that there's stats, I don't have them to hand, but somewhere between 20-25% of candidates on CV databases, resume databases, are never being found because they're poorly categorized, and poorly categorized because it originated from a poor resume in the first place.
Absolutely, and I completely agree with you. And I think that there's a huge knowledge vacuum in this recruitment space. It's kind of like a black box for most job seekers, which is the majority, right? You have a handful of job boards, aggregators,
Yep.
talent communities, hiring platforms, but then you have like a million X job seekers, right? And so it's just there's a disparity between the knowledge. And I don't know if that's intentional or not. I would hope it's not, but I think that how it actually works, and that could be a whole series on how it actually works.
Mm.
And I think speakers would be really, really surprised to know that, like, hey, when you do submit this CV to a career site or a job board, it is being indexed, it's being categorized. And I think that's where there's opportunity for more transparent scoring, matching, and letting folks know that, hey, before you go spend 30, 40 minutes on this application, you're probably not going to get seen because your resume or CV is
Yeah.
not so great.
Yeah.
And that's worth thinking about the candidates. And I think if you value the candidates and you care about your candidates, then you'll have a better experience, like we said in the beginning. But super knowledge vacuum that I think that we're looking to solve.
Yeah. People, I think, have a preconception of what a CV writing or a resume supporting service looks like. They imagine that what's going to happen is that they send off some of their information, and it comes back with fancy fonts on colored paper with various graphics and so on. And that's not necessarily what's going to come out. What's going to come out is something that accurately describes you in a much more three-dimensional and accurate way, that's going to be picked up accurately by those databases where people are running AI searches to find the ideal candidate for themselves, employers searching for candidates. So it's not having a fancy CV in that sense. It's having a CV that works for you.
Yeah, and a CV and a resume, it's a marketing document. And to be honest, most people don't know how to market themselves, period. Whether even if you're a thought leader, even if you're a CEO or a CTO or a or you're an entry-level graduate, the function of marketing yourself is not as easy as people think. And then even persuasive writing, creative writing focus on impacts, achievements, and core accolades, and being able to accurately, represent yourself is not the easiest thing in the world. And sometimes working with somebody who has been there, done that, work with thousands of candidates is a fast track way to be successful. And we make our prices affordable. And the cool thing about Writesea is that with our white labeled model, we're able to adjust the services by the job board. We're able to adjust the package name, the price points. And so if we work with the student job board, the package prices may be a little bit cheaper to adhere to that demographic. If we work with an executive job board, it might be a little bit higher because you're dealing with more higher level executives. And so even having that flexibility in the model of how we partner makes us unique as well. And we see that more effective.
So in practical terms, if I'm a job seeker, a candidate, and I'm on a job board that's partnered with Writesea, and I click into to the portal for that service, what in practical terms will happen with my information when I send it off? What will I see and what will I experience?
Yeah, absolutely. And it just depends. There are two paths. Traditionally, the first path is that you can get a free resume analysis, right? So that's completely free, and in all forms, and that's a great sometimes lead magnet for the actual job boards to attract more candidates to get more resume uploads. Again, if you just want to get a resume, you're asking for a lot there. Well, what are you providing in exchange for that? And so the first path, your resume analysis for free that goes through your experience, language, ATS scan, best fit jobs, and gives a really good analysis of where you're at. That's completely free. And then you have the ability to say, hey, I agree with this feedback or I don't agree with this feedback. And hey, I might want to look at working with a XYZ, career coach or resume writer, right? To upskill myself.
The resume scan in the first place, to what extent is that done by technology or by humans?
It is all technology driven at this point, which we're really, really proud about. The algorithms that we employ to make sure that we are doing a really, really, really good thorough review, and it's very dynamic. And I implore you to go to kind of test it out. It looks at your skills section, whether you're using, bullet points or you're not using paragraphs and things like that. And
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
looks at a slew of different things to make sure that, like, hey, like, you need to know where you're going wrong, words that you can trim down,
Mm.
bullet points that are maybe a little bit too long. We kind of pull out specific things from the resume and give
Yeah.
direct feedback on. And that's just a lot of value. We educate about the ATS system. It's a lot of value for free, which again builds brand loyalty and trust between
Mm.
the job board and the job seeker. Whether they take the feedback and they update their resume, whether they take the feedback and then they go and update their CV,
Yeah.
you've established a true trust factor because you've given something of value for free. And so if you think about it, it's really interesting because now if you take that same job seeker and then you look at that person against somebody who may have not opted in for a free resume review, well, you start to see some really interesting data and trends in the behavior. So just
Mhm.
going to give a nugget that we might be speaking about at a future TAtech.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, you know me, I've always got a lot of questions on that. So in getting into the services that the Writesea has, and I know that you also have an army of consultants who are providing services through Writesea. What are the other candidate-specific services that you're delivering through job board partners?
Yeah, absolutely. So as of right now, today it is resume enhancements, it's cover letter enhancements because
Yep.
cover letter it's still out resume applications submitted with cover letters to outperform applications with just a resume by itself. So that's
Yep.
personalized cover letters. LinkedIn profile revamps because most recruiters and hiring managers are still going to go to your LinkedIn, so you
Yep.
need to bring it up as well. We're going to get into some interview coaching in the future, but we like to focus on like what we're doing right now as a core.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And again, we have that AI resume review, and
Mm.
then we're looking at other things depending on like the specific needs of a job board. So there's one job board that we're working with today, which is really interesting. They're more like an executive talent marketplace, but what we
Yeah.
found is that we've created like a profile optimization service native for just their job board, right? Because
Yeah.
yes, you can go get LinkedIn profile optimization, but what about the profiles that you have on, let's say, I don't know, like whatever job where that is, like should still be, especially if you have a profile first experience, like your profiles within that's your data and your database needs to be better. And if you want folks to kind of showcase that, so we've also gotten into some custom profile optimizations, which is really, really interesting.
Yeah.
So we're doing things like that depending on the needs of the job board, and then we have executive as well as like entry
Yeah.
level. So we're starting today, and we're really focused on like honing that in, making sure that it's the best experience for not just for
Yeah.
the job seeker, but also like what else can we do, and what else are job seekers looking for
Yeah.
us. And so that's as of today. And then we're getting into more matching in terms of like, well, hey, this is your CV. We know
Yeah.
what what job you're looking to do next. Like, where are there skills gaps, and where
Mhm.
can we plug there as well?
Yeah.
I think that's massive issues that a lot of people want jobs that they're not qualified for.
Mhm.
Who's going to tell? We get
Yeah.
a rejection now, but so we're looking at getting in ways to do more
Mm.
work development ups, matching to the right skills gaps and things like that, which I think is going to be really, really important for
Yeah.
jobs knowledge, because everything is moving digital. Everything now has a digital or online component,
Yeah.
and there's I think there's a lot of studies that are coming out. We're going to need to like reskill like 100 million, even just Americans, or I think no, 100 million people globally will need to be reskilled for their
Yeah.
roles. And so
Yeah.
again, the world is shifting, and somebody needs to tell people, hey, these new tools, these new technologies. If you're an
Yeah.
accountant, hey, these AI accounting tools, or if you're a marketer, hey, maybe these AI marketing tools are something that you might want to look into.
Yeah.
And then there's opportunities there as well. So
So, but before we get on to the growth and development of Writesea, and I'm really interested in that, are there, and you touched on it there, are there evolutions in what people expect from a resume and a CV? Rather than just a matter of fact, I worked here for a certain amount of time and these were my duties. Uh, are people more moving to these are my skills? This is the ability that I have to manage teams or to manage budgets or to work to deadlines, that sort of thing.
it's really interesting because again, there's just a massive knowledge gap in what a professional resume looks like. What does an accomplishment based resume look like? And I think
Yeah.
that we're still very far from the common folk or the common
Mhm.
person's understanding of like from what good and bad looks like, because
Yeah. Yeah.
it's relative to just many people who don't know what really, really good looks like. And so
Yeah.
we're still in a place where we're trying to get a majority of people to understand, hey, this is a better framework, this is a better format, this is what's going to land you to interview. So for me, what I think is there's been an evolution of folks kind of correlating this rewrite to interviews, right? So if I
Yeah.
spend money, if I invest the time and the help, this resume or CV should land me more interviews, right? Like that is the number one indicator of success. You look at metrics like, hey, did
Yeah.
this thing help out? Is it going to be more interviews? And so I think that there's a more focus on that. And I think so that's where we focus, like making sure that we're staying up on the latest and greatest trends in like the ATS technologies, like what are the new ones that
Yeah.
are coming out? What are the updates that they're making to make sure that when we're building and crafting these constructed documents, that it's making sure that we're getting through the ATS. Because to be honest, that is the most important thing if you ask me. And I always say that the content of a resume is less important than the format. I'll say that
Mm.
again. The content of a
Yeah.
resume or CV is less important than the format, because if the format is not formatted the right way, when that ATS system scans it, you're going to get thrown out right away, and it's not going to be able to perfectly categorize you. So I think
Yeah.
that we're still at a place where we need to enhance the average knowledge of the average job seeker to understand like this is what actually goes on when you apply to a
Yeah.
job, and like
Yeah.
that post application funnel is just a black hole.
Mhm.
So most folks again don't know what good is, so we're still trying to educate there.
Mhm.
But we're doing like we've processed over 100,000 resume reviews in the last like just 2 or 3 months, and so like we see it firsthand on our side. We look at the data, like these
Yeah.
resumes, CVs are really, really poorly put
Mhm.
together. There's just glaring mistakes across the board from executives to entry levels, and so
Yeah.
we're really, really here to focus on how we can just marginally move, right? And if it's everybody gets feedback to understand what good is, we're going to start to push the just the common knowledge forward. So that's kind of what we're focused on and what we're seeing right now.
Fantastic. So I know that some clients could be hush hush, but can you give us an idea of some of the job boards that you are working with that they'll have a partnership with yourselves?
Yeah, absolutely. So I won't list any names specifically,
Okay.
but I will say that we are partnered with about 20 job boards of today.
Yeah.
We are growing that rapidly. We have what I
Mhm.
like to categorize job boards, and they might hate me for this. I like to look at it as tier one, tier two, tier three.
Yeah.
Tier one in Writesea's mind is a job board that's aggregating more than 5 million monthly visits. So you have a decent amount of people that are coming to your site.
Yeah.
Tier two between 1 to 5 million. So I like to say like that's like a tier two job board. And then you
Mhm.
have tier three, which is anything under 1 million monthly visits, right? Which is a large majority of job boards today.
Mhm.
And so where we found a lot of success is in that like tier two, upper tier two market of job boards that are aggregating anywhere from 1 million to 3 million
Mhm.
monthly
Yeah.
page visits. And sometimes that's unique visits as well, all from generic job boards to executive job boards to
Yeah.
cannabis job boards to 4-day week job boards
Mhm.
to job boards that are in specific industries or specific disciplines, like an IT job
Yeah.
board, for example. And so what's been interesting is that across the board, we're finding a willingness of job boards to want to partner with us just because it's a no brainer.
Yeah.
We've had conversations where it's just like 8 minutes and they're like, hey, this makes sense. Let's go.
Mhm.
And I can talk about that. If you're providing revenue, which is huge, in
Yeah.
a market right now it's very tight labor economy. If you look at the wonderful statistics that a lot of the industry leaders put out,
Yeah.
we're in a little bit of crunch. Jobs are not being put on platforms as fast as possible. So revenue
Mhm.
is a big focus, right? And we can help drive that. I think the second thing is value, right? Like offering something that they're not offering today. They don't have to build out the tooling, the technology, the AI, spend all that resources to kind of do that. And then it provides just a better experience, right? Like, hey, if you need the help, we got the help, right? And so
Yeah.
if they're
Yeah.
already going to be looking for it, why not
Yeah.
start with
Well,
them?
yeah, as I was saying at the beginning, it's something that job boards they very rarely do much on or do it especially well, and it's an additional service that, in a partnership with yourselves, they are then distinguishing themselves from the competitors. And when you see so many generic job boards, are very much the same with the same vacancies posted on them, then how do you differentiate yourself from your competition? You give better value to the candidates, and you get more brand loyalty that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a seamless integration, right? Like
Yeah.
integrating with Writesea doesn't take more than, one day to a week, depending on the level of
Yeah.
expertise, typically with the development team. And we're finding
Oh,
sometimes
give me a second. I'm just going to reject this call.
you're a busy guy. But yeah, we find that sometimes it's not a matter of, do we think this is a great idea with partnering with Rightsy? 9 times out of 10, this is a no brainer. I
Yeah.
think the pushback typically comes down to prioritization and product roadmaps. We've heard that a lot,
Yeah.
and it's normal, right? Like, there are a lot of different things that you can focus on and work on as an online recruitment marketplace, as a job board. And so, we've had really interesting conversations on, like, well, again, what happens if you don't work with us, and what are the areas that are going to be lagging behind? And you have a responsibility to think about the candidates as well as the employers. And so bridging that gap and putting it, right out in the front street has been huge. And I think that most job boards have a big problem with resume uploads, and so we help solve that as well, right? So there's just a lot of different reasons why I feel like it makes sense outside of just the revenue piece. Just being
Yeah.
a, just being a good person.
So tell me a bit more about Writesea as a business. You founded in 2021. You're accelerating at a rate of knots. You were last year in the TAtech event in Austin, and from there you really accelerated in terms of business deals, connections, developing the business. The team that you have now, you've got about 23 staff, I think, or thereabouts.
About
So
30 plus globally full time, and then we have like just a massive network outside of that. And
yeah,
so yeah, 2021 we kind of started. We became a VC backed startup towards the end of 2022. So just
mhm,
only mid December,
yeah,
we were able to successfully raise $2.5 million USD to really push our mission forward, backed by some incredible investors,
yeah,
such as Capital, that's based out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, Collab Capital, that's based out of Atlanta,
mhm,
Georgia, Bolster Ventures, Visible Hands Ventures, Expert Doja Ventures, and then Bronze VC, that's out
yeah,
of Oakland, right across the pond from Silicon Valley. And I think that, not just the fact that this is a great idea, which is always first and foremost, and we have great traction.
yeah,
It just makes sense, like I love businesses that just make sense, and it's really simple to grasp and understand. And I think we fall in that category. So we
mhm,
just have some incredible investors that have poured incredible resources into us.
yeah,
Some have had crazy connections to job boards that I had no idea about, which has been really interesting. And for the last 8 months, we've just been executing against our company vision, against our goals. We may be looking at fundraising again in 2024, just kind of continue to push the mission and the vision forward. But I think we're in a really healthy place, and our team has grown tremendously. Before we raised, we had about 6 employees full time,
yeah,
and
mhm,
now it's 30 plus within 8 months, right? And so
yeah.
just an incredible story. And I think that I just we just love like what we're doing. And if you talk to anybody at Writesea, we always want to crack a joke or
Yeah.
smile, because like we just love what we're doing. I think we're making an impact. So
So I'm going to ask a question that might be tricky to answer. What does commercially, what does a partnership with Writesea look like? How does that deal work in terms of a job board says, right, we want to partner with Writesea. Uh, what's the commercial basis of that? How does that?
yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really great point, because there may be some folks who are listening who are looking at considering partnering with us. Maybe we've spoken to you in the past,
Yeah,
or you think that this might be a good fit for the communities that you serve. And we don't turn anybody down. Like, obviously, we have our own ICP, but to kind of get into some of the commercial inner workings of how we work, how somebody can work with Rightsea.
yeah,
Essentially, it's two models. So for one model is a rev share. So as we do our magic on our side to take the candidates that come to your website, whether they're getting a free resume review and or they're just coming to your site, they're browsing around. It's through the emails, it's through job alert emails, it's just in many different ways that we can touch candidates. If you have a resume database that's been sitting there that you haven't engaged in a while because you have no good offer, we provide a rev share on the people that we convert.
Mhm.
And then in another model, we provide a cost per lead upfront. And so sometimes it's very small, it's very nominal to kind of
Yeah.
guarantee that you will get something for every single person that you send us if it
Okay.
fits.
Yeah.
And then there's a rev share on the back end that's typically a little bit smaller. And so we found that by not just having one model but two,
Mhm.
we have had a lot of success just because the needs of a job board may be different. Some job boards are like, hey, I just want to send you, X amount of people, great. And some are like, hey, well, I want to make sure that if you don't convert, there's still something there. And so we found a lot of success in that, and it's worked really, really well.
Mhm.
And so those are the kind of two methods today that we have available. And then there are going to be future opportunities to continue to monetize, right? Because we are trying to increase the revenue, right? And so that starts at career services today, but in the future there are other things that we're looking at that continuously add and drive revenue to the job boards past just the initial career services. And so, like, that is our mission, right? Like, how can we make job boards more money in the most sustainable and equitable way? And so that's just on the front end, but there's going to be continuous like revenue opportunities past just the initial. Hey, we
Mhm.
updated someone's CB cover letter, and so
Yeah.
if we empower the marketplaces and the job boards to be better, we're going to continue having really relationships and as well as
Yeah.
deepening ourselves in. And so that can take in many forms.
Yeah.
But today we're having a lot of success with just what we started with.
Yeah. If I was a job board, then the things I would want and I would be happy to partner on are, so I want to offer a better service to job seekers and candidates, new ones who are coming to the site as well as the ones already registered. So if I've got a database of, I don't know, 200,000 resumes,
Yeah,
then I want to offer them, and I want to rejuvenate those candidates. So a lot of those might have been on the database for a year or a couple of years and they've not come back. So if we can go and reactivate them somehow, then that would be great. I want to do it in a professional way that enhances my brand as a job board. I want people to see that there's value in coming back and looking at vacancies on my job board. And I don't want to do anything that will take people off and go elsewhere, because above all else, I want candidates applying to jobs on my job board. So I want them to be activated. I want them to have better resumes. I want them to be easier found. If there's a service being provided where people are paying for those services, then yes, I'd like to share in that revenue. Because if I'm providing you with the candidates, then that's how that works. And what I'm interested in then is, so how do we make that a richer partnership? How do we offer more and better services to candidates? How do we distinguish ourselves from other job boards in our sector, so that we're getting more candidates than they are, but because we're delivering a better service?
absolutely. I think you hit it on the head, right? Especially that re-engagement piece, I
Yeah,
think is a massive issue for job boards. Like, a job seeker is only going to want but so many job alerts, right? And
yeah,
that's like one of the core functions of aggregators and job boards, right? And how they make a lot of their money,
yeah,
as well as like getting more resumes. And so we've had a lot of conversations with job boards that I was like, hey, like, are you storing resumes? And a lot of the job boards are like, no, we're not. And so they don't want to impact their registration paths, and most of the times
yeah.
because they think that it might impact it. And studies show
Mhm.
that if it's a really good registration path, it will not. But we can still be a
Yeah,
partner that collects those resumes for you and does
yeah,
it in a way that kind of doesn't impact like your kind of core inner workings. And so yeah, like it's been a really really interesting time. And it's funny, like we just talked to so many job boards, and so I'm like really becoming an expert at like registration paths and
yeah,
the things that we're kind of seeing across the board. And I think just in a time like this where being different matters, I
yeah,
think it's important because if you're offering something for free that it's actually good and it's meaningful that you didn't have to build yourself and then update and maintain, I think it's a no-brainer.
so as an
Um,
organization with so many connections to different job boards and of course to candidates, in what way are you able to exert some influence on the development of the the job board sector and the hiring process. What are you doing to make it a better experience for candidates, and that job boards are more progressive in the way that they go about things rather than stick with the tried and tested model?
Yeah. So when we typically talk to a job board, like we come from a background of consultants. So I spent a lot of time at PwC. So I have a strategy and like product and consulting mind just built into kind of the way that I operate. We have already looked at, mocked up, re-strategized most registration paths of job
Yep.
boards, even when we're going into conversation, just because that we understand like what
Mm.
works well, where there's opportunities across the platform, right? And so you talk to us, we've probably already like
Mhm.
stalked the site, know where it is, where we can punch it in, where you can make things better. We sometimes offer copy change recommendations because
Yeah.
the copy is very important. Like, what are you actually saying to get the information that you're looking for? And
Yeah.
if we think things like don't make sense, like we say that, right? And so we're not in a sense, like we're becoming a little bit of advisors because we see so many different registration paths. We talk to so many different job boards. Like we
Yeah.
know what works well and what doesn't. And we know like typically sometimes like job boards are speaking to us, and it's either the CTO or CEO or CRO, and they have
Mm.
these aha moments, like, oh, I didn't think I never thought about putting it in there or doing it in certain ways. I think that
Yeah.
there hasn't been a wave of innovation, just new idea, fresh ideas, and we kind of bring that to the
Yeah.
forefront. And we think that job boards really, really appreciate that. So I think that we will start to see some of what we can consider Writesea standards, like
Yeah.
propagated across different job boards as they listen to us and take our recommendations and our feedback. And it's not just us. We
Mhm.
also have some folks on our team now that are new that come with like 15 to 18 years plus of experience working at tier 1 and tier 2 job boards. So we're
Yeah.
looking at just being young and fresh ideas. Like this is also backed by research and with working with folks that have
Yeah.
core experience.
So in a company that's moving as fast as you are, I would imagine that there's a sense of urgency around the whole team. When people join Writesea, what's the most common realization that they have once they've joined that they didn't see before they joined?
I think I'd say, and we've hired a decent amount of folks, is like our company culture, I think, is very unique in that like we
Yeah.
all show up for each other. We pride ourselves on accountability
Yeah.
forefront. We pride ourselves on having a culture where it's definitely performance first, but in a good way. Like we champion others. We make sure that
Yeah.
your career growth is at its forefront. We encourage, we kind of pay for professional development. We encourage everybody to kind of continuously upskill themselves because we don't believe in getting a job and staying in that same role and not enhancing your skill
Yeah.
sets. And we do regular check-ins around like the quality of the projects that you're working on. Do you actually like it? Do we need to reposition or refocus, or how can if you're working on this super data analytic project, but you're really more creative, like how can we also balance the things that you kind of care about as an employer.
Yeah.
And I think that the people who work for Rights, you realize that, hey, like these folks really, really, truly care. And we're trying to change the narrative. And I think that jumping onto a moving train that is going really, really fast and going places, I think is worthwhile because it's not stagnant, right? Like
Yeah.
we really pride ourselves in kind of what we build. And we just have a really, really good tight knit culture that I think is really important in today's day and age, where we don't have a lot of turnover, right? Like people come, they stay, and if they do leave, it's for reasons that are not like pay or work related. It's just existential
Yeah.
crises going on,
But
and we've had a lot of boomerangs as well.
and I know you relocated to Tulsa, but what proportion of your core team are there or are remote and scattered
Yeah.
around the country?
Um, most of our executive functions sit in Tulsa as well as our marketing functions, and we have more folks relocating there. We have a bit of our team in Pakistan, in Palestine,
Yeah.
Turkey, and some folks in Nigeria as well. So we're not just in the United States, but also there, but a majority of our functions are in our Tulsa office. It's in the beautiful downtown Tulsa in the
Yeah.
Tulsa Arts District. It's a really, really, really nice place. So if anyone wants to come and visit or drop in, it makes a great weekend trip. There's so much to do. There's always events going on. in the kind of tech community, in the ecosystem. It's just a really good time, and so we're like really in the heart of a growing city. There's billions being pumped into Tulsa to kind of redevelop it, make it the next Austin. Just putting that
Mhm.
out there. So it's
Yeah.
definitely a place.
One of these days, I'm just going to show up. I love the sound of Tulsa, so it's definitely going to happen. And I've noticed that we've gone considerably as expected. We've gone considerably over time. But Brandon, it's been an absolute pleasure seeing you again and chatting about Writesea. Phenomenal things are happening. You're making a big difference in the hiring landscape, and long may that continue. So thank you very much for joining me today. Thanks everyone who's watching either live or on replay on any
Yeah,
of the social channels or on Crowdcast.
yeah.
And we're going to be having more in the series of Stepping Up coming up in the next few weeks. Please watch for that. I might see you in Nashville. Are you going to be in Nashville next month?
No, we won't be in Nashville, but we will be in London on October 12th at the JobWorks Connect, and I'll see back in London again for TAtech Europe. So we're going to be really excited about seeing some of our friends there. And just before we run, if anybody wants to contact me, it's just Brandon BRANDON at writesea.com, or you can find us on all socials. Writesea, we put out a lot of content, and we do these executive interviews as well. So if you're a talent leader that wants to potentially be interviewed and showcase your brand, your story, your vision, and what kind of got you into this space, we also are doing those. And so if you reach out to us and kind of check out our YouTube, we have a lot of stuff going on as well.
That's fantastic. Yeah, your link to your LinkedIn is in the chat bar, and we've just been preparing these. If I can get this to show, there's a graphic for this one here, which is for London coming up in December. So if you want to see Brandon doing this thing, then you can absolutely see that there.
I love it.
We're going to be putting these out just shortly.
That is fly.
But in the meantime, I'm going to say thank you very much, Brandon. It's been great having you on as a guest, and I hope to see you soon. And everyone else, please come back when we have next show, more shows coming up. We're going to have more record shows next week, I believe, and the week after. So I look forward to seeing you then. And in the meantime, thank you very much and goodbye.
Bye, guys.